Welcome to Be Now for Tuesday, April 25th. Joining me is Fazal Khan. Faz, how's it going?
I'm good, Don. I'm hoping everybody saw we changed the format of the show. I come on right away now, Don.
I know. It's you want to be, front and center. It's only 8 months till Christmas, eh?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying, you can, 8 months. You got 8 months to buy me something. So it's, there's
Well, my
plenty
birthday's coming up first, so you got to buy me something.
Your birthday's coming up?
Yeah, in June.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So what do we got on the program tonight, Faz?
Okay. Well, the main part of the show is we're going to be talking about bad drivers, and we live in Brampton, Don, so we see them every second we're on the roads. One of them passes by you, or is about to hit you, or is about to run over a pedestrian, or like zooming down the street. So something's got to be done about these people, and I have some ideas, and I think you have some ideas too.
All right, let's go.
Let's start off first with we're going to talk about the city's Eid celebration. We're going to talk about we had something else. I don't have it listed here. Oh yeah, Gurbak's Mali.
Yeah, animal shelter.
You got to see that. Yeah. Well, let's talk. What Don. Dogs are always heartwarming. So I want to show everybody this picture. So this is King. King, I don't know what breed dog that is, but he's been in the animal shelter, I think, for a couple of years. And through social media, somebody from Dundas, Ontario, found out about King. I think he's about 10 years old. I don't have the specific details, and adopted King. So he's going to go and retire in a nice sprawling yard and enjoy the rest of his life. And you can see on the right-hand side is one of the staff people from Brampton Animal Services with Councillor Santos and King. And I believe Councillor Santos has a dog named Stanley, who I think is the same breed or looks very similar to King here. So she put out a big social media thing trying to get him adopted. And it looks like it was successful. So that's a nice story to start off with.
But you were saying basically the shelter is at capacity right now, right?
From what I understand, the shelter is full, which means they need people to adopt these animals. And I think a lot of these animals are coming back. I think they were referring to them as COVID animals that were adopted by people during the pandemic who now realize they don't have the time or can't afford for food and all that kind of stuff. But by the way, if you are struggling with, paying the cost of that, I think you can actually get some help from animal services. They have like pet food and things like that. So, I'm not a pet owner. I think it's a hard job. It's one of the reasons why I don't have a pet, because I don't have the time to go and walk the dog every day and, do everything a dog needs, right?
Goldfish are good for that, because when you finish with them, you can just flush them.
And my 3 kids are at the house. I like my freedom, but yeah, and so that's why I don't have a dog, right? I love dogs. I didn't grow up with the dogs, but one of my family members has one, and they're amazing. They make you feel good. In fact, every time he comes over with his dog, I don't really care about everybody else. I hang around with the dog.
Well, that's a good idea. Probably the only one that will listen to you.
Yeah. He snuggles up with me. So
yeah, but don't forget the animal shelter has cats and dogs. So if you're looking for a pet,
cats and dogs, and I think rabbits, and maybe a few other things. I'm not sure.
Okay, but if you want to adopt, it's easy to adopt there. Actually, if you go there, I think they have all the shots and everything else that go with there, so it's not hard to adopt a pet from animal service. We should do a show on animal services one day.
Yeah, live from the animal services. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, good idea, Don. Okay, let's talk about the city's Eid celebration. So we'll show a video while this is on here. Let me mute that a bit. So this is the first celebration that the cities run to celebrate Eid, which is the celebration after the month of fasting that's called Ramadan. So I went there on Sunday not thinking there were going to be many people there, just because it was a cold, miserable day. And I was really surprised at how many people there were there. And there was entertainment, some food trucks, not as many as I would think or hope for. But if the weather was better, I think there would be a lot of people there. So I think overall it was a really good event. The issue with this event is, for those of you who don't know, the Muslim calendar ever is based on the lunar cycle. So every year it shifts back 12 days. So next year Eid is going to be earlier in April.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's going to be hard to run that event. So that, and then the count every 30 years we kind of make a full circle. So probably in about 20 years, you'll be able to have that function during warm weather, which I might not be here, Don, in 20 years. So,
Well, the thing is, too, I mean, like I would like to have seen, poutine is not exactly a, Islamic food. I would have liked to seen some sort of, yeah, not food trucks as much, but maybe, like some outdoor grills like they do at the Rotary Ribbon Roll sort of thing where, you have kebabs and, the different Middle Eastern foods and so on and so forth. The big thing about Islam is, you have Islamic practitioners all around the world, right? It's not only in Middle Eastern countries. Africa, Islam, spans the globe in many different cultures. The whirling dervish that you saw on the stage there, I think that's Turkish, right? So,
or it might be Sufism, which maybe it's out of Turkey. I don't know.
okay, but
Yeah.
the thing is, it was you and I both saw something on Twitter where they were interviewing people about which costumes they were wearing during Eid.
Not costumes, Don.
Oh, okay.
Attire.
Sorry, but they were wearing during Eid, and it was interesting because this person was saying, well, this is the African, I forget what he called it, but it was what the kings wear in Africa. This one, and he was Islamic. Then there was someone from Bangladesh. There was someone from around the world, Nigeria and stuff like that. So it was an interesting video and a concept of the whole Islamic culture itself, right?
Yeah, and it's a video I was looking at. I'm thinking we should do that in Brampton next year, right? And I saw the one where I forget which African country it was, but he had his arms out with the garb, and then he did some kind of fancy thing with his arms, and it just kind of looked really good.
Yeah, that's the one he said, this is what the kings wear. The other thing is, I mean, food. I mean, obviously, because Islam is around the world and it's different cultures, it's associated with different foods as well. And that's the whole thing. There's no set food that's connected to Eid. I mean, everyone has their favorite food, right?
Yeah, so I think what you're saying, Don, is there's lots of opportunities to do more of this. It's the first time the city's doing it. The city's also doing the Diwali festival this year with fireworks. So I know a lot of people are thinking, why is the city doing this? I love what the mayor says. We are a mosaic of the world, and I love when we celebrate our people, because at the end of the day, we're not like a Toronto. We don't have the skyline. We don't have the water. What do we have? I think we have the most amazing people in Canada. That is a mosaic of what Canada is and will be in terms of diversity, food, culture. I've been going around the city the last 6 months with you, Don, at various locations and doing all sorts of videos. It is amazing the different foods we have, the different cultures, customs, greetings. It's all here. It's all here in Brampton.
Yeah, and it's something that, I mean, there's all sorts of opportunities. Food is a big one, right? Food brings everybody together.
Yeah, and of course, Mike Dancy.
Animals are better than people.
Is his dog, because we see him and his dog.
Animals are better than some people, Mike.
Some people. Okay, and of course, the big thing last week was the Gurbax Mali. I don't have a title for him, but let's. Let me.
Yep, got the keys to the city.
I got the wrong video up here. Sorry, Don. My fault.
It's okay.
I'm trying to find the video.
I think it's.
Did you delete it?
No, I didn't touch it.
Let me see if this is it. Oh,
that one there. Yeah.
Let me rewind it here. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Gurbax Mali is the first turban-wearing Sikh politician in any federal legislature in the Western Hemisphere. So that is a significant accomplishment, especially if you look at the Parliament in Canada today, at how many people from the Sikh faith are represented there. And so that was one of the big reasons why the mayor selected the Honorable Gurbax Mali to receive the key to the city. It was a great attendance. There was a video that Don, you and I participated in developing a 14-minute video. You and I know Gurback Smalley intimately now because we did that video. And it was a great celebration for somebody who's still with us and to acknowledge their contribution to Canadian politics. What did you think of the event?
No, I thought it was good. It was like, I would like to see it, advertised a bit more, but no, it was a good turnout. It was a good turnout for someone actually. For if you don't know Gurback's through Canadian politics, you can always Google it and you find out a whole bunch of different things. But the video I know is up on the city website, so check out the video if you haven't, and give us feedback.
And laws had to be changed for him to sit in Parliament with
Yeah.
something with headgear,
Yeah.
because that wasn't allowed up to that point.
Absolutely.
Okay, now Don,
Yes.
what are we going to do about bad drivers?
Well, it's springtime right now, and and I know that it's springtime in Brampton. The first thing that you hear is cars racing up and down the road. So you live up around Financial Drive. I'm sure you hear them. I live close to, not close, but close enough to Beauvert that when you sleep with the windows open, you can hear them starting at midnight, and you got a whole bunch of different cars. I know the Peel Regional Police posted on Twitter today about, I think they had 5 cars that they had stopped that were over the speed limit, and the range of ages, I think, went from 21 down to 16. Right, so all of a sudden you got Project the Race again, which I think the Peel Police put last year, and I think they're reinstituting it this year in trying to stop speeders, and young kids.
And Project Noisemaker, which is to stop the loudness of these vehicles.
Yeah. So at 16, you can get your driver's license and you can drive. And, for many of us out there, we take a look. Most of the accidents caused are between the ages of 16 and I think 24, 23, 24.
And that's why their insurance is higher.
That's true, but sometimes mommy and daddy pick up their insurance, right? So they don't have to do it out of pocket. The funny thing,
I'll just from my experience, my kids were considered temporary drivers, and it's a nominal fee for the insurance, right? So, because they're living in my house and driving my car, the insurance doesn't go. If they were living by themselves with their own car, then it's expensive. So obviously there's ways of not having to pay those fees. But I don't know about you, Don. I know there's some talk of raising the age limit to get it. I don't agree with that. I do think it's way too easy to get a driver's license.
Well, that's the other thing too. We talked about this a couple of years ago in regards to different countries. Someone like Germany, you have to take a full year course. If you get a speeding ticket or something after that course or before you got certified, that's it. You can't apply. You have to wait a couple more years to be able to do it again. There's a lot more stricter laws. I mean, we talked about it before. You're 16. You can actually buy a Ferrari if you want, right? Or have mommy and daddy buy your Ferrari, and you're driving. You're on the roads driving, or you can buy a big F-150, one of those big stupid trucks that drive around and they're on the road and they're going nuts. You and I know Mike Dancy takes dash cams of all sorts of people doing U-turns in the middle of the roads, running run lights, driving with one headlight on, no tail lights working. We see it every day, and it's a situation where if you're driving a motorcycle and you've never driven a motorcycle before, you can only drive a certain amount of cc's. Right, so it could be, I don't know what it starts at, maybe 200.
Well, you need a different license, I think, if it's over 500 cc.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go and you got to get tested, and you can't buy a Harley 1200 or something like that right off the bat. You've got to start at a certain cc and work your way up.
Well, even with insurance, I think even insurance for a young driver, a young motorcycle driver, is like way out of reach for most young people, right? On motorcycles, if you notice, most of them are older. And the older ones are the ones that are out cruising on their comfortable bikes. Is a certain range with motorcyclists that they do crazy stuff, and I think it's probably mid-20s.
Yeah, well, I've seen them weaving in and out of traffic on the 410, either north or south, going nuts, and it's like that's one way to kill yourself pretty quick. But you're 16. if you're driving a motorcycle, you have to go through a graduation process. But if you get a driver's license, like I said before, you can drive a Ferrari
or a
and
Ford 150 where the
yeah,
the hood is way higher than the average child's height.
yeah, and it's insane. To me, there should be a graduation process or raise the age to 18. I didn't have a car till I was in my 30s because I lived mostly, in Montreal and moved to Toronto. I didn't really need one. I used public transport, but I didn't want to pay the insurance as well. But there
Yeah,
you
and I
go.
think transit is becoming, we have if we have the most fastest growing transit system in Canada, but still we have probably the most number of cars per capita in Canada, I'd say, if you look at people's driveways.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
we have an issue, right?
We have an issue too with the testing, and we brought this up before, right? The testing, you said it yourself. It's too easy to get a driver's license, and I agree. It's like the qualifications to get a driver's license. There's no winter driving test, which is very easy to see who has driven in the winter and who hasn't. And
For
then
snowfall, we'll tell you
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. And then on a regular basis, you see people screaming around. I don't know how many times people just do U-turns in the middle of the road. It doesn't make a difference for them. It's like
Yeah, it's just increasing U-turns everywhere, anywhere and everywhere.
yeah, yeah. It's the graduation process has got to be instituted. Whether you raise the age to 18, there's got to be something going on because you know what? It's the amount of bad drivers you see is.
But the enforcement too, Don, I just don't see enough enforcement of any of these existing laws that we have. And so when you see somebody doing a U-turn and there's no consequences, well, if I need to get somewhere and the shortest way to do a U-turn, it's like, okay, I guess I'll do it too because that person did it a few days ago. I saw them do it, nothing happened to them. And so if we don't enforce these things, and I know there's lots of people and, it requires police officers to be out and about, but we have to start enforcing these things. And, showing pictures of radar cameras on Twitter is not going to stop somebody from speeding. Sorry. It's just
no, and and I know the fine situation is here. They were going, I think, 40 or 50 kilometers over the speed limit. So what do? I think they lose their license for 30 days and then they impound the car. To me, you should lose your license.
yeah.
Like I don't care. You know what the speed limit is. If you can't,
Well, and there should be huge fines too,
yeah.
right?
If you can't rationally, say, oh well, I'm going 40 to 50 kilometers over the speed limit in a residential area. I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, you could kill people, right? You should lose your license. And even, I don't know, possibly spend time in jail. But, there's got to be a harsher penalty than 30 days suspension. To me, that's nothing.
Yeah, Emilio is talking about bike lanes or uses. Nobody follows rules. You had a story about one of the new e-scooters, right?
Yeah, I was driving on North Park and an e-scooter showed up behind my car because I could see the headlight. And I'm thinking, dude, you've got a bike lane where you're supposed to be driving. You're not supposed to be tailgating me in the middle of the road, right? And it's like, okay, if you're driving one of those things, you don't need a driver's license. You don't need a helmet. You don't need insurance. There's no requirement that, you need to follow any rules of the road. And that's a problem as well. What happens if I had to brake really fast and he slammed into the back of my car?
Well, there are rules, and I think the city had to publish them again because people are probably breaking it. But you can only ride those things on roads 50 kilometers and less, or on, I guess, existing multi-use paths.
Well, there was a multi-use path, like there was a bike lane right next to me, right? So it's like, dude, you're supposed to be in the bike lane. It's like when you see people driving mopeds in the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I saw one of those e-scooters on Chinguacousy, which is at least 60 kilometers, at a bus stop. I don't know exactly how the whole thing works, to be honest, because I see some of them like there's a chain holding it to it.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a sidewalk, there's a road, there's no path. What is that scooter doing there, and how was it allowed to be there? Because the only way to get from wherever you want to go with that scooter is to take the sidewalk, which is not allowed, or to take the road, which is not allowed either because it's over 60 kilometers. So I agree. I don't have an issue with these scooters, but I have an issue with how it's being implemented in terms of how people are using it or not using it properly.
Well, I think I talked to you before. Paris was banning them. Actually, they had a moratorium on them. They had them instituted, and then They just recently had a thing, they were banning them because, number one, there was too many accidents. They were actually a hazard to biking. And if you know Paris, they have a lot of bike lanes, and a lot of people bike in Paris. But and then they were just basically dropped on the sidewalk, or people were laying them on the sidewalk and going into stores. They weren't even upright. So there are cities that have gone through the implementation stage and decided to ban them as a result of all the stuff that came forward. So, it's something that we're learning, but it's dangerous too. I mean, someone could get hurt driving those things.
So
as well.
it's a 2-year pilot. I guess we'll see what happens in the 2 years. But Justin raises an issue about bike lanes too. Bike lanes do narrow underused roads, and so one of the, obviously speeding is an issue, and so we need to slow people down. And one of the arguments of bike lanes is, well, it'll narrow the lanes, which will slow people down, which causes congestion. So you can't have it both ways, right? You can't want people to slow down and then complain when there's a bike lane going in there to support more active transportation, at the same time slowing down traffic.
Well, here's the thing, though. The bike lanes are not instituted. Paint is not infrastructure, right? And that's what I've said before. If you're going to put a bike lane, do like European cities do, or even Montreal. Montreal has separated bike lanes with concrete barriers. And the reason for this is this. I was driving along again, North Park Drive, heading towards Airport Road. And yes, there was a single lane because there's bike lanes. And there's one driver decided he's going to use the bike lane to actually pass everybody. And that's what he did. He drove like a maniac, and he used the bike. If there was a bike person in there or anybody in there, they would have been killed. This guy just said, screw it, and then went all the way up the bike lane, just bypassing everybody.
Well, there was a similar video floating around online last week on the 410 going onto the 401 eastbound, where there was traffic. So people, how there's the dirt mounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Drove onto the dirt mounds to get onto the 401. I guess that would also be eastbound, but you bypass the whole ramp. And come on, there's got to be cameras for the police to see that. And
they must have the CCTV cameras on there to be able to take license plate numbers and charge them.
So concrete
barriers coming to Baden. Well, that's good, because you know what? That'll stop the drivers. Although there was last week on Twitter, they had, I think it was in downtown Toronto, they had a big concrete barrier for separating a bike lane. And there was a car right on top of like an SUV on top of the concrete barrier. It's like, how do you get up there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I bike in the summertime because I like to bike and exercise, and, I don't like to do it in the winter. Sorry, but I'm not that, dedicated. But during the summertime, yes, I like to use it. But I'm going to tell you, I do not use the bike lanes, because I have seen people drifting over into the bike lanes as they're talking under the phone. And they're using the bike lane as weaving back and forth. I've seen it many times.
So I got a quick story for everybody. So on the weekend, I was actually going to the Eid celebration at the city in downtown Brampton, and I was going on Queen Street eastbound towards Huron, Ontario, or Main Street. And so there's a driver behind me that started flashing one of those LED flashlights at the back of my car, so I would see it in my rearview mirror. It's like, I'm thinking to myself, and he's like right over the steering wheel, right? If this is a steering wheel, he's like clearly trying to annoy me, whatever. But then he comes up to my passenger side, and then he starts shining the light on me this way. And it was bright daylight, and I can see the light. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with these guys. There's three young guys in the car. So I'm approaching downtown Brampton. You know what's in downtown Brampton, right? It goes to one lane with a barrier on one side and the sidewalk with posts on the other side. So I get ahead of them, and now they're behind me because if they want to. So the light's green. You know what I did, Don? I stopped. I got out of the car, and I went to the drivers behind me and confronted them. They wound down the window. Oh no, we weren't flashing you. We were just checking out this new flashlight we got. So I basically told them to grow up, kind of sternly. I didn't, I know a lot of people online were saying that was a risky move, but if you're playing with a flashlight, I don't really think you have a gun in the car. But and I'll go to the next step. They were brown guys. I won't say what kind of brown guys. There's different kind of brown guys.
Why does that make a difference?
It makes a difference because it makes us brown guys, because I'm a brown guy, like be ammunition for people out there who are criticizing immigration, all that. If you're a brown guy, and especially these guys, I could tell they've not been here a long time. It's like you got to be in your best behavior. You don't go around the city doing nonsense like this. And I was thinking of my daughters or my wife, who, if they were experiencing this, like, they wouldn't get out of the car. So these guys would continue to do that kind of stuff. And I'm actually, because I don't see any enforcement, I see this stuff getting worse. I took the initiative and I did that. Probably
But
not.
here's the thing that people don't know. If you see someone driving bad or doing this and that, you can actually take their license plate, call up the Peel Regional Police. You can lodge a complaint to the Peel Police. And if they get, they can actually decide to track that license plate, and they can go to the owner's home if they feel it's dangerous enough. If someone's tailgating you and aggressively tailgating and stuff like that, you can do that. If you see people doing U-turns, they can actually go to their house, and if they get enough complaints on this person, then there's a possibility they charge.
Yeah, that's the Road Watch program, right?
Even though there's no cop around, if you get a license plate, you can phone the police and say, "This is the car. This guy was tailgating me aggressively or weaving out of traffic, in and out of traffic, or whatever," right? And they can follow it up.
And I think the best way to do that is to have a dash cam. That does the front and back, because I know there does.
You can get front and back.
And then you can look it up afterwards, and you have evidence as well, right? Instead of doing what I did. I don't recommend anybody do what I did. And I'll probably do it again if I have to, because I felt empowered by doing that, by standing up to these morons. But one of the reasons I don't think the police get too many complaints like this is who has the time, who has the mental thought to go, let me write down the license plate.
Well, a lot of people don't know that they can do that. That's number one, right?
Yeah. Well, what I should have done with these guys is taken my phone out, take a picture of the license plate, take a picture of them, and then walk back to my car.
Yeah.
Right? There's people behind them honking their horn. I don't care.
Yeah. Karen's got a good point. Apparently, the e-scooters are being left all over the place. I don't know where you're supposed to leave them, if there's designated spots or.
I thought there was designated spots, but I just see people leaving them all over the place.
Yeah, so but don't they get billed for them? And I don't know what the.
No, I think you just say you're done with it, and then
because
these things have to be charged. They have to be charged, so the company has to go around, collect them, either charge them or replace the battery. So they have to know where all of them are at all times.
They must have a tracker on each one of these things, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's all GPS connected. Yeah, 100%.
Well,
that's why they can lock it. They know where you are. If you're driving somewhere or riding somewhere you're not supposed to be, they can gradually slow you down and bring it to a stop. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see what the pilot project is, but it's just something else that drivers have to, or people have to look out for, right?
I haven't seen any of the three pilot companies, and you can tell them, right? They're brightly colored.
I've seen them.
One is orange, one is blue. I haven't seen them on the roads, where I'm driving, but I have seen other people's private scooters on the roads. Driving where they're not supposed to be.
Well, it's just with the good weather coming out. Number one, you're going to have people biking. You're going to have moms out there with their baby carriages, and you're going to have old people out on the walks and the thing. You got these things that are going 30, 40 kilometers an hour. I mean,
I think they're limited to 20
kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you buy one, they're a lot faster than that.
Well, I think in Canada, that's not legal to sell. Because I know this with e-bikes. If you look at the power capabilities of e-bikes in the U.S. and Canada, I think the rear wheel hub is maximum 500 watts, and in the U.S. it's 750 watts, which basically it puts a cap on the speed.
I think you can buy a 750 watt.
Not legal in Canada. You can go in the U.S. and buy it and somehow sneak it over, but you can't buy it in Canada. No.
Oh, well.
That's why e-bikes here, if you look at the price, are relatively comparable to the U.S., but it's because you got smaller everything on the bikes.
Okay, so here's the situation. You got e-bikes that are controlled. You got scooters that are controlled, but I'm 16 years old and I can buy a Ferrari that I can go 225, 230 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense.
3 companies are in charge. State they can be left anywhere as they have GPS in all locations. Come get them. That's a lot of work for a company if you just drop them wherever and then they got to,
I think the financials are there, Don. It's not cheap riding these things. I think as soon as you unlock one, it's $1 or $2, and then it's a per kilometer charge or per time. And maybe by time, anyways, I don't know. Maybe somebody can. Let's see what Sandra has to say.
Dump them on our creeks. Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting, getting one of the GPS tracker out of a creek.
I don't know who PC Shapiro is, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so and it's early spring still, right?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what's going on here. I'm actually thinking of getting an e-bike, but when I see people how they drive, I value my life, but at the same time, I got out and confronted idiots in a car. So,
well, there's a lot of idiots in the car, Faz, but at the same time, you don't want to do that. It's easier to take a picture of their thing and just report it to Peel Regional Police and say this person was doing this, and like I said, they'll track them down. It's like that's the police do that, right?
So Mike is stepping up. He's going to make a video. Mike, if you get us that video for next week's show, we'll show it.
Sure.
Make it short, 1 to 2 minutes.
$15 package, okay.
And it would be great if you could do all 3 companies.
Detection whereby if they go on the side, a voice tells them to remove from the sidewalk. Okay, that's if you, yeah. And what compels you to actually listen to the voice coming into the headset? If you're gonna ride it, you can drop it anywhere and just leave it in the creek or whatever. And if you're gonna do something like that, you don't really care what the voice tells you.
Yeah, Karen's not helping Mike do the video. Just a quick story again. When these e-scooters were first coming out in the city, I think it was a couple of years ago during the pandemic. One of them, Scooty, had a demo at Chinguacousy Park, which I went to and I tried. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. But I also brought my wife, who doesn't ride a bike. I said, it's not going to be that hard. So she got on it eventually and eventually figured out how to do it. But then she had a bruise on her ankle that didn't go away for 6 months. And apparently she had some blood vessel damage and stuff.
Oh, good. So you're responsible for that. Excellent. Excellent.
So if, just be careful. You can fall off these things. You can hit somebody. Somebody can hit you. They are dangerous.
Anyway, we'll keep monitoring the situation. We've gone through our allotted time, Faz. So it's time to, sign off for another Tuesday, and we'll keep monitoring the situation, see what's going on. But like I said, if you see somebody out there doing a bad driver, take the license plate, phone Peel Regional Police, not 911, the 905, what is it, 453?
The non-emergency number.
Right, which exactly.
We can never remember.
Yeah, I can remember. Anyway, call them and then, just report the incident. All right?
Okay, see you next week.
All right, thanks for joining us. Talk to you later, Faz.